Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another review. And this is my start into the Indiana Jones films. Special thanks to DMC who got me this Blu-ray set from my Amazon wish list. Thank you so much, DMC, for that. I love these films. I will admit, I love all four of the movies. I love all four of them. Yes, including Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I'll explain why when I get to that. But it is one of those few series where I enjoy each and every installment. Just like the Rambo films. Although, yes, I will say I'm more of a Rambo fan than Indiana Jones. But Indiana Jones is one of my favorite series. I love the hero. I love the character. I think each film is very well made. Great score by John Williams. Excellent theme. Da-na-na-da, da-na-na, da-na-na-da, da-na-na-na-na. And it's one of those things where they're great adventure stories, and I'm a sucker for that. I like adventure stories where looking for lost treasure or a city of gold or something, some artifact that's mysterious, maybe even supernatural. Even if it's not supernatural, there's danger, there's locations, there's. I think that's why. Nah, I don't want to put it that way. There's quite a few films other than Indiana Jones I enjoy that has that adventure aspect to it. For example, even the low-budget clones of Indiana Jones. And I don't know if clones is the right word for it, but inspired by Raiders of Lost Ark, King Solomon's Mines. I really enjoy that film. That's a really fun movie. And then that had a sequel, Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold. You had Firewalker with Chuck Norris. Even films like Congo. That's an adventure story. And yes, I will admit, I even like the National Treasure movies. The two that well, there's only two. I enjoy it for the clues and going from A to B to C and what does this clue mean, and hell, I even like the movie Clue. I mean, that's not adventure, but I like that kind of stuff. It's intriguing to me. And Raiders of the Lost Ark is a classic film from 1981. And yes, I'm calling it Raiders of the Lost Ark because I think it's stupid that they tagged it's Indiana Jones and Raiders. Raiders. It's just called Raiders of the Lost Ark. Okay, there's nothing wrong with calling it Raiders of the Lost Ark. 1981, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas got together. George Lucas had come up with a few stories back in the day. One was a space story, which would become Star Wars. One was a story influenced by the serials of the 30s and 40s, the cliffhangers. Oh, you think the hero's going to die, and then the next week he's fine because he did something that's unrealistic, but that's part of the fun and charm of the serials back in the day. Just like Star Wars were influenced by stuff like Flash Gordon. You know, sort of the cliffhanger aspect. And this is that sort of more adventure aspect takes place in the 30s. I believe this was 1936, I think this takes place in. And Steven Spielberg, I know for a long time he always wanted to do a James Bond film, but he wasn't allowed to. I think it's something to the effect that they only allow certain types of directors to do James Bond films, either that they're only British or that they're only some. I remember hearing that there's only certain type of director they let to do a James Bond film. So Steven Spielberg never got to do that. But so if I can't do James Bond, this is the next best thing. And I like James Bond. I mean, hell, I reviewed all the James Bond films from Dr. No to Spectre. I did a playlist. I mean, I have a playlist on my channel. I went through every single James Bond film. I reviewed every single James Bond film. I enjoy them. But I will say, if you made me pick between the two, I enjoy Indiana Jones more. Nothing against James Bond. I mean, a lot of those films I love. Spy Who Loved Me, and GoldenEye, and Tomorrow Never Dies, and what was it? License to Kill, Living Daylights, a lot of ones. But it helps that I grew up with these more, but these are just fun as hell flicks. And easily my favorite stuff with Harrison Ford. Now, Brandon, there's a lot of stuff I liked with Harrison Ford. Yeah, I like the Star Wars films, but they were always lower on the totem pole for me regarding sci-fi films or Harrison Ford films or whatever. I like Star Wars Empire and Return of the Jedi, but just I didn't watch them. Like I watched them when I was a kid, but it just I'm more into Indiana Jones. Let me put it this way: am I a Star Wars guy or am I Indiana Jones guy? I'm an Indiana Jones guy. That's the best way to put it. And Harrison Ford, there's a lot of films I enjoy with him. Air Force One is a great movie. Regarding Henry, really good film, really good performance by Harrison Ford. The Fugitive, great one. Blade Runner, I like. Mainly the director's cut. Probably, I don't know, out of all, I probably prefer the final cut. I'll say that. And there's a lot of the Harrison Ford. Hell, I even like 6 Days, 7 Nights. I don't think that was that bad of a movie. I thought it was a pretty funny film by Ivan Reitman, 6 Days, 7 Nights. But easily, hands down, the Indiana Jones films are my favorites of his. I know originally Tom Selleck was going to play Indiana Jones, and honestly, I could see that. Because I enjoy Tom Selleck. I love the film he did, Runaway. Magnum P.I. A good friend, John, I believe it was him. And if I'm wrong, then I'm an asshole. But I believe it was John Zerocool. Someone had sent me a season 2 of Magnum P.I. and I watched it. And I really enjoyed it. And one day I'd like to get all the other seasons because he's got a charisma to him and he's got a charm to him. And I know I didn't see the episode. I know it's online somewhere. I didn't see it. But because he didn't get it, they let him do a Indiana Jones type of episode of Magnum P.I. And the sad thing was, he was going to do it. They wanted Tom Selleck, but the idiot behind the TV show said, no, no, no. He's got to do our TV show. He did the pilot. We're going to be shooting in Hawaii. So they get Tom Selleck to Hawaii, the makers of Magnum P.I. And then for shitty reasons, they had him wait and wait and wait. And while waiting for months, look who shoots in Hawaii. This film, where they're finishing it. So, in essence, Tom Selleck could have done both. He could have made Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he would have had time to go to the TV show and do Magnum P.I. So, the TV guy behind Magnum P.I. fucked Tom Selleck over. And there's some interviews where, Tom Selleck's not mad about it now. But I mean, if I was Tom Selleck, I would be pissed. But Tom Selleck seems like a really, really cool guy with a really good mustache. So I'm a big Tom Selleck fan. But I'm glad Harrison Ford got it because he's iconic in the role. I'm just saying that if Tom Selleck was in it, I think it would be just as good. People would be pissed at me for saying that. But again, Harrison Ford's fantastic. My favorite role of his. I'm just saying I'm a big fan of Tom Selleck as well, and I think Tom Selleck would have worked just as fine. Karen Allen, on the other hand, Karen Allen is the best Marion they could have had, because they were throwing out people like Sean Young. I'm not a fan of Sean Young, and weirdly enough, Sean Young and Harrison Ford would be in Blade Runner. And Sean Young, I'm not the biggest fan of. She's there, and she seems crazy as fuck. I remember there's a story with her trying to deal with Tim Burton, trying to get into a Batman movie. Just look it up. Girl seems crazy, but I'm a big fan of Karen Allen. I really enjoy her in Starman, and I really enjoy her in this. It was such a pleasure to see her again, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's one of the great pleasures I had watching that film, to see those characters back together. And she had a little spunk to her. She wasn't just a damsel in distress. She did have that, but she had a bit of spitfire to her as well, which I enjoyed. The rest of the cast was great. How at the beginning of the film you have Alfred Molina, in the scene, give me the idol, I'll give you the whip. Fire con Dios. and he gets his ass killed. That's Alfred Molina, who would be Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, and he'd been in quite a few other films. So it's always funny watching the films like, holy shit, that's Alfred Molina. And all John Rhys-Davies as Sallah. Yeah, a really great group of people. And the villains, Belloq, Toht. I mean, Toht, when he has that thing, they think, oh, he's going to strangle Marion, going to torture, and he does a twist, and it's just a hanger for his Toht. And just so many memorable scenes in this film. It's so well done. Adventure, excitement, great car chases. I mean, the truck chase is very well done. Dangerous stunts for real. You know, an actual guy underneath the truck. Like he's on the truck. Indiana Jones gets punched out, hanging onto the front of the truck, goes underneath the truck, and is hanging from behind, being dragged. This scene here, where Indy gets in a fist fight with that big bald guy, and just Indiana Jones is just a fun character, where the big guy's like, come on, come on, and Indy's like, okay, you know, I don't want to do this, but okay, and then kind of does this, makes the guy look, does a sucker punch, but he gets punched and falls on his ass. But then even the sound effects of the punches is like boom, boom, boom. Especially when Indiana Jones like gets those haymakers against the big bald Nazi guy, who would actually reappear in Temple of Doom, as I believe he's also the big guy fighting Indy at the end of in the third act of Temple of Doom. And then the guy gets fucked up by the propeller of the plane, the whole Well of Souls, and the snakes and the cobra right in front of him, which I know in earlier DVD VHSs you could see like a glare, but it's nice that they, because there was a glass or something to protect Harrison Ford from the cobra that could spit venom. But they, see, that's CGI when you want to restore a movie that works well, not the what George Lucas did with the Star Wars originals. This stuff, okay, if there's an error, fix it. You got the technology, you got CGI, or green, however you want to do it. Fix errors. See, that's the thing, is that with the technology, you can literally take movies, and if there's errors, fix the errors. That's what I would do, but just fix the errors. If there's a fucking line somewhere, or string, you know, if someone's being carried over and, oh, you can see the strings, just fix it, take them out. I mean, but hey, what do I know? But yeah, I mean, I'll give George Lucas credit that, you know, he created Star Wars, and without him, there'd be no Indiana Jones. But I definitely give a lot of credit to Steven Spielberg. I would say of the films Spielberg has done, these are my favorites of his that he's done. I really enjoyed Jaws. I enjoyed Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I even like his War of the Worlds. I'm trying to think. But these are my favorites of his. And it's hard to, you know, for the longest time I said Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite. But as I was watching these, Temple of Doom is pretty damn good as well. I love all four of them. But my favorites are between Raiders and Temple of Doom. So, but Last Crusade is still pretty damn good. And King Crystal Skull I think is a bit underrated. It'd still be fourth on the list. Like 1, 2, and 3 would be above it. But 4, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. But even the way the movie starts, where you have the Paramount logo, and then it's revealed for a real mountain, and you don't see Indy's face, and then a guy tries to shoot him, and he whips the guy's gun out of his hand. He's in shadow, reveal his face, and just the whole opening. You know, the idol, getting like little sand, switching to get the idol. Before that, you have the light trap that, you know, sticking his hand out, and this big spike wall with dead bodies. And for a PG film back in the day, it's actually fairly bloody, especially at the end with melting and exploding heads of of Nazis. And like I said, Alfred Molina, you give me the arrow, I'll give you the whip. Fucks him over, but Alfred Molina dies from it. I mean, You have the big boulder being chased by the big boulder. You have the natives, and Belloq's an asshole, steals the shit. Just like has the natives chase Indiana Jones' ass, just can't get a break. All this shit he's going through traps. When all hell's breaking loose after he's getting idle, all these like darts and stuff almost hitting him. Guy fucks him over. He barely gets out of there for the closing door, and then the big boulder, and then natives. Then he gets in the plane, and the pilot has like a snake. I hate snakes. I hate them. And the guy goes, "Oh, show us a backbone, will you?" After all the shit India's done. And then you get into the plots, or in the MacGuffin, where you have the Ark of the Covenant, which I thought was a cool idea to go for. A thing that held the Ten Commandments. And I love the design of it. Looks really cool. And I like the idea that Indiana Jones, he's a... I guess you could say he's a... Well, he's a teacher. That's what he is. He's a teacher. Which I thought was really cool that he was a teacher of archaeology, but at the same time he could go out and do archaeology, and some people call him a grave robber. I like that sort of motif. He's smart, but at the same time he can kick ass. And even little stuff they have, like when he's teaching and there's a student who closes her eyes say, "Love you." And Harrison Ford just stumbles like, what? And it makes the character more human as well. He's a very human character. Very relatable character. And just excellent stunt work, action sequences. It has a great adventure quality to it, going to Nepal, where Marion is in a drinking contest and meets Indiana Jones. They had a thing back in the day. Bad guys get there, there's a firefight. And again, some bloody stuff. One guy looks like he gets shot right in the head and blood coming down his face. And one guy gets shot and you have blood coming out of his mouth. I mean, again, it's... For a PG film, you can't do that today. Get a PG. Well, there was no PG-13. It was things, and big part to this film, why we got PG-13. I mean, that's PG, but because... Well, I'll get to that next time. But yeah, I love just such a great fun adventure, and John Williams' score is fantastic. Whether it be the soft score with Marion, da, da. You know what? I'll just butcher it. Just look up the score on YouTube, and then that great theme just really works perfectly in sync with the action. And just all this cool stuff happened. Going to Cairo, meeting John Rhys-Davies, him and Karen Allen Marion, these bad guys fighting him and getting fist fights, using the whip, looking through the baskets because she's been kidnapped. She was hiding one of the baskets. This one monkey's an asshole, and he's such an asshole. He's been trained by these bad guys. Even this scene where the monkey even does the Heil Hitler, where bad guys are like the Heil Hitler thing. And of course, that great scene where Indy has the swordsman. And it was supposed to be an actual fight. In fact, some of the behind the scenes, they show bits of the fight. Like the planned fight scenes where the swordsman was going to cut this dead pig, this butcher, to be cut in half. And Indy using the whip to... And the swordsman blocking with his sword. Indy's trying to whip him in the face. But I guess Harrison was so sick, he's like, fuck it. I have a gun. Turns around, just... That's such a classic scene. He thinks Marion is dead because this truck explodes, and he thinks she was in it. A great scene with Belloq, where he's like, "You want to talk to God? Let's meet him together. I've got nothing better to do." The scene where they're looking some information, John Rhys-Davies and Indy, and Sallah grabs the dates, and you find out that the monkey who was eating the dates has died because the guy has poisoned them. And Salah's like, "Bad dates." Or when they You know, Indy in the map room with this thing and light beaming down, showing the map. I mean, everyone's seen it. Why am I describing it? Everyone knows the scene I'm talking about. It's just really cool to see. Yeah, the Well of Souls and all these snakes and Sallah asps. Very dangerous. You go first. I love the set construction, and I think it was done like on a $20 million budget, something like that. And some studios said, "Oh, you're crazy. It would cost a lot more." But they're like, "No, we want to shoot this, down and dirty and fast." And before I'll wait till I get to the ending to talk about that. I think this goes at a very fast pace. It's never boring. Indiana Jones is a great character because he's an adventurer. He can kick ass, but he's human. He has great human moments. I mean, even just the swordsman ready to attack him, and he's like, "Fuck this," goes off. And he has a great sense of humor to him. Even later on when he's with Marion and Marion's trying to help him. "Well, damn it, where doesn't it hurt? Here and here. A little bit of here," and then each part she kisses, and here. It's funny. They got chemistry together. You really buy these two together, and again, everything worked out perfectly. The score is one of the great rousing adventure scores of all time. The action scenes and stunt works are top notch. This is Spielberg at the top of his game when he's doing these movies. I know people say, "Well, really, even Kingdom of Crystal Skull?" Again, of the four, I would say that has the most problems, but I still really enjoy it. Again, I'll talk about that when we get to it. I still really enjoy it. I think it's a bit underrated. But that great scene where they're in the Well of Souls and him and Marion have been trapped in there, and Indy's like, "No, go through that wall." Just able to topple this thing down and go through the wall. And Marion goes through and all these corpses in there freaking her out, as it'd freak anyone out, including the corpse with the big old python coming out of its mouth. Some really creepy images throughout the flick, especially at the end. And then that one of the best scenes in the movie where Marion gets caught in the airplane. They're trying to stop it because they don't fly it to Berlin. They don't fly the Ark to Berlin. And Indy stops him by beating up this guy, and Marion's shooting these Nazis, and fire and gasoline is about ready to blow, and Indy's able to get the guy into the propeller, and big blood splat on the plane, and get Marion out. They're running with that blowing up a real airplane, not CGI. Because there's no CGI in 81, thankfully. It works better when it's practical. That's one problem I have with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, is that's one of my few problems. Too much CGI. Need more practical. Or just go back to using models and matte paintings. That's just my opinion. And great lines of dialogue. But when Indiana Jones is getting down, it's not the years, honey. It's the mileage. I think that's one of my favorite lines in the movie. Even just going, "Trust me." And this movie really goes at a fast pace, and so many different locations. You're in a jungle setting. Then you're in the snow outside and it's cold, and you're in this bar in Nepal. Then you're in the deserts of Cairo and the sun's blaring and the sand. Then you're in a place where all these fucking snakes coming at you. Then you're in the Sallah gets him on a boat, and then Nazis get there. They take Marion, and Indy gets on this submarine and follows them. And I remember the scene where he's trying to put this shirt on, but it's too short. And this German guy's like, "What are you doing?" He can't speak English. I don't know what he says exactly. "Oh, what are you doing?" And then he's like, just kicks the guy and knees him and grabs his hat, puts it on. And that's where you get to the ending where he's about ready to bazooka the Ark. Although, to be honest, is a bazooka really going to stop the Ark? It's God. I mean, I don't think a bazooka is going to kill it. But, I mean, Yeah, it sucks that Indy still doesn't follow through it. But to me, it would have been suicide if he did, because what would it have accomplished? I mean, the art's not going to be destroyed from a fucking bazooka. And there are bad guys like behind him take 50 seconds, they just shoot him in the face. So all he had was a bazooka, one bazooka. They would have killed him and Marion, so he had to let it go. So that's how I look at that scene. Now you get to the ending where him and Marion are tied up, and the Nazis, open the Ark, and you have great. I think Chris Whaley's worked on it. Really great, gruesome, bloody, melting zombies, and Belloq gets his head exploded, and the other zombies go. Ah! And the Ark is pissed, like the word of God saying, "Fuck you, Nazis, you're done." And Indy and Marion survive by closing their eyes. Don't look at the word of God. Don't look at the Ten Commandments. Don't look at the sight of God. What does they say? If you saw God, you die, or your head will explode, as these Nazis find out, or you get your fucking face melted, which is a very memorable image. Who the fuck forgets that? It's creepy. Still to this day, watching those Nazis melt, especially Toht, just melting, and his hat's getting, because his head's getting thinner, his hat's falling in, just blood, and then even the other guy, his face, and then Bella's head exploding. I mean, how many PG films do you know have melting Nazis and heads exploding? This is the 80s, where PG get away with exploding heads and melting faces off. I'm still stunned they got a PG just based on the melting scene. I know the head exploding, they had to put fire in front of it to soften it. But still, the melting zombies, I mean, that's gorier than some R-rated films I've seen. I mean, fuck, The Conjuring gets an R rating, but this scene's fucking... And I like The Conjuring. I thought it was okay, but that scene in Raise All Stars is creepier than anything of The Conjuring. Now, one problem, and I don't even think of it as a problem anymore, but I was looking at this, it was something for the past 10 or so years I was thinking of, where I'm like, well, it seems like at the end of the film, Indiana Jones really has no effect on the outcome of the story. Because the Nazis would have taken the Ark, you could go, well, they followed Indiana Jones to get the Marion. I said, okay, well, great. They followed Indiana Jones to get the Marion, and which wouldn't be saying much. But Indiana Jones and Marion are just tied up. And it's no matter what Indy did, this would have been the outcome. So it seemed like he didn't matter. And how is he a hero? How did he save the world when it didn't matter? And then people would go, well, hell, I mean, maybe he screwed up even more, because the Nazis would take it to Berlin and open in front of Hitler, and who knows how many Nazis would have died. Just, again, the whole summation of, well, it seems like Indiana Jones had no effect on the outcome of the story. And that was always a little thing that bugged me throughout the years. And apparently, this TV show, The Big Bang Theory, which I never watched, but I would just, when I watched this, I would look up on the internet. Apparently, they did an episode where a guy has this girl he likes watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, and she mentions that, and he didn't think of that before. I'm like, really? You guys didn't think of that before? I thought of it over 10 years ago. Let me write for that show. But at the same time, I kind of defeated the Big Bang Theory. I kind of defeated that problem. And here's how I look at it. Let's say Indiana Jones did nothing, and the Nazis, got the Ark and brought it to Berlin. Let's say that happened, right? Because that's what would have happened if Indy didn't do anything. Would have gone to Berlin, right? Now, let's say it's in Berlin. How would it be opened in Berlin? It would either be open in one room, inside, or outside for all to see. Now say it's open outside for all to see. All to see would be, I don't think every single person in the crowd would be a bad guy, correct? If you have a crowd, even in Germany, not everyone in Germany at the time was a bad guy. I mean, it was, Nazis, but not everyone in Germany was a bad guy. I guarantee there's innocent people amongst Nazis. There's innocent people who are, well, if I don't stand here, this guy's going to shoot me in the face. That means the Ark would have been open and killed a bunch of Nazis, but would have killed some innocent people as well. So in essence, because Indy did that and stopped and fucked with the Nazis, they had to take it to an island where it's just the bad guys and no innocent people in the crowd are killed. Or, let's say they're in Berlin, they open in a one room. Small room, right? Ark goes apeshit, kills everybody there who sees it, blows his top, comes back down. Well, sooner or later, someone's going to walk in and go, well, shit, they open it and there's no one here. So I guess to assume that we can open it, but no one can be in there, or they don't disappear, they don't be dead. Even if I didn't see it, I could put 2 and 2 and equal 4. Okay. Do we have any suicidal guys? Guys who are really into Hitler? And we got any suicidal guys? We do? How many? 5? Cool. Okay, we're going to go to America, and we're going to go somewhere, and you suicidal guy, when time's right in the middle of New York, you pop that top up and say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and kill a bunch of people who see it unwittingly. So Indy saved that from happening, from fucking them up, from blowing up the plane and fucking all their shit up, thus leading them to an island in the middle of nowhere where there would be no one else to look at the Ark and grab it. Just Indy. Grab it, take it back to the US, where they put it somewhere safe and never used again. So in essence, yeah, Indy did have an effect on the story. He was a hero. He kicked ass, he took names, and he was effective in the outcome of the story. Because they would have taken it to Berlin, which case, who knows what could have happened in Berlin. There'd be outside forces. Hell, even, again, if it was in a room, there's going to be people outside the room. They're all going, hey, what happened? Okay, let's just use this and you suicidal guy, pop it up in the middle of New York, or in the middle where the President of the United States is at. If it was in a wild crowd, I'm not buying every single person in the crowd would be innocent. I mean, would be guilty. So some innocents would die. Because again, just because there's a lot of bad things in Nazi Germany doesn't mean every single person was a bad guy. People go, well, that's a stretch. These are Indiana Jones films. These are films where a guy has a fucking giant boulder chasing after him. A second one where a heart gets ripped out, but the guy's still alive for about 2 minutes and then gets dropped in and dies. Or they fly in a raft and coming down, then slide down, then fly down again to the rapids of the water. Or a fucking plane explodes and goes across them and goes towards. And all this cliffhanger stuff and all this stuff that would not happen realistically because it was never part of that. How do you know that won't happen? Is it really stretching? No. In this kind of series? No. So, there you go. So, yeah. Andy did fuck up the Nazis. He fucked up the pilot, this scene here is the essential scene. Fucked their shit up. And then also, they're having a truck. Maybe they get to another plane, and Indiana Jones fucks up in the truck chase. They keep fucking up. It's like, fuck it. Fine. Just put it here in this island. Fine. We'll do it here first. Instead of doing it in Berlin, because wasted time and Indy keeps fucking with us. So there you go. Isn't there? The plane was going straight to Berlin. They weren't going to stop on an island. So Indy made the Nazis waste their time, get to an island where they're secluded from anybody going in. Indy and Marion, sole survivors, they take the Ark, and because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, that's right. They were taken to Berlin, and who knows what would happen in Berlin. So either Indy saved the innocent people in the crowd, or Nazis would have taken in, just have suicidal guys do it. So there you go. It works. So I have no problem with that. So yeah, that was a long about way of explaining. I have no problems with the film anymore. Love the score, love the stunts, love the action, love the spectacle, love so much stuff about this movie. Indiana Jones is a great character, so many memorable scenes, memorable dialogue, great stunt, action, special effects, melting Nazis, exploding Nazis, or exploding Belloqs. Melting Nazis, exploding Belloqs, snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Huge boulders, fisticuffs, firefights. And God getting pissed off and kills some Nazis. God does a Death Wish 3. God does a Charlie Bronson on some Nazis. What more can you want in an adventure movie? So I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. Awesome film. Awesome flick. And I already, throughout this whole review, I've had the Indiana Jones going through my head, which is not a bad thing. And before I ended, the picture quality on Blu-ray looked great. I'll say it looked great on all these movies. It's the best I've seen the Indiana Jones films look. So I'm really glad to have this. It's beautiful to see these films on Blu-ray. They just look great on Blu-ray. And granted, I'm not a fan of the sliding in and out, but the presentation's beautiful. It looks great. So that's my sort of runabout thoughts on Raiders of the Lost Ark, a classic action-adventure movie. It is one of those films that it speaks for itself. It was one of the most popular films when it came out. Still one of the most popular action-adventure movies of all time. If adventure has a name, it is Indiana Jones. If we're talking adventure movies, I would say these are my favorite adventure movies. I mean, action movies, yeah, I love Hard Target, Cobra, Rambo films. But we're talking adventure movies, Indiana Jones would be the top. And the next time, I'm going to talk about a sequel that technically it's a prequel. I'm not sure why they made it a prequel. I mean, it's 35 while the first one's 36, but still, I don't know why didn't they just make it a sequel and say it's 37 or something? But if it's a prequel, it's the best prequel ever made. Second best prequel is Missing in Action 2. But I always forget this is a prequel, but very underrated film. I did not know that it got hate. I know Spielberg himself doesn't care for the film because it's too dark. The first film has melting Nazis and exploding heads. But, come on now. The excellent film, Temple of Doom. Again, it's hard to pick which is my favorite. Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom, watching these again. Again, that's not to slight Last Crusade and other stuff, but Temple of Doom is next time. Really enjoy this one. But you'll hear more about that next time. So we will see you later. You will see me later. Trust me.